Now at 5, food trucks in Joplin now have a new place where they can set up shop. Plus, a summer camp in Pittsburgh gives students a chance to get some hands-on learning in the healthcare field.
New campaign finance numbers show former President Trump raised nearly twice as much as his closest political rival in the GOP presidential primary race so far. Skyler Henry in Washington with the latest ahead of next month's debate.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
We're keeping an eye on the possibility of some pop-up storms in the area. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Chief Meteorologist Doug Hetty joins us.
Yeah, we still have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect across southwestern Missouri and also a sliver of Kansas. Oklahoma goes till 5. So we're going to watch and see exactly what happens with that. But we've had a few isolated thunderstorms. You can see a majority of them to our east and also back to our west. For most of us, not too much has been going on over the past couple hours. But again, we could get 1 or 2 little guys try to pop up during the evening hours. If that occurs, they could be strong to severe. But I really think most of you are going to end up staying on the dry side as we go through the evening hours. Just something we want to keep our eyes on. So let's go through time. A couple isolated guys trying to pop up. Here's 8 p.m. Temperatures kind of warming up through the evening into the upper 80s. And then we start to drop back later on tonight. But again, most of us dry. Could get a few isolated thunderstorms in here late tonight into tomorrow morning with a complex which is going to shoot to our north. So I think late tonight, tomorrow morning is actually our better shot to get a little bit more widespread rain. Of course, we're going to break down the entire week for you here in just a bit.
All right, catch in a few. The struggle for food truck vendors to find the perfect spot in Joplin might now be over. Where the Food Parks is Joplin's newest food truck park. Owner Peyton Lane began this venture with the goal to bring together community members and business owners.
All the other food trucks have issues trying to figure out where to park if they're not at events or whatever. So we ended up finding this location and just decided that it was probably the best bet to go ahead and create our own food truck park where other local food trucks and mom and pops can set up during the week as well.
The park's at 22nd and Main in Joplin. It currently has only 2 trucks, but patrons should expect to see it up to 6 at a time within the next week. The park owner hopes to be open 6 days a week from the hours of 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Some kids in Pittsburgh get a chance to learn about careers in the healthcare field. The Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas hosted the Inspire Health Academy. It's a camp for junior high and high school students to get some hands-on experience through healthcare-related activities. Officials say they want to foster interest in healthcare to inspire the next generation of doctors and nurses.
The big takeaway here is that these are jobs for you, and they are jobs in Southeast Kansas that you can do. Careers like becoming a doctor, you can go away to medical school and finish your training here, and there's so many opportunities, and it's just great for them to know that there are hundreds of options.
The students learned how to spot cavities, how to do CPR and first aid, and looked at imaging equipment. Only 6 Republican presidential candidates are qualified at the moment for the first GOP primary debate next month. Former President Trump is one of them, but with a big lead in polling and fundraising, it's possible he might skip out. Reporter Skyler Henry has the latest fundraising numbers and what the Biden campaign is watching.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis criticized President Biden at the Christians United for Israel summit in Virginia on Monday.
Biden does not know what he's doing.
But if the Republican presidential candidate wants to take on Mr. Biden in the general election next year, he needs to focus first on former President Trump. New fundraising numbers match the poll, showing Trump with a major financial advantage over his GOP rivals. Trump raised $35 million from April to June, while DeSantis took in around $20 million. No one else brought in more than $8 million.
The great silent majority is rising like never before.
Trump still hasn't said whether he'll attend next month's debate, which could hinder any opponent's chances at landing any significant blows against him.
In this Republican primary, there is one lane to the nomination, and that lane is right through Donald Trump. He's at the head of it.
On the Democratic side, President Biden and the DNC reported a $72 million haul in the second quarter. So while money isn't an issue for the Democrats, they're closely watching the No Labels organization. The group, which bills itself as bipartisan, is pondering a third-party run, possibly led by Senator Joe Manchin, the moderate Democrat from West Virginia. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Now, Manchin is headlining a town hall this evening in New Hampshire. No Labels co-chairperson Joe Lieberman insisted yesterday the group will stay out of the 2024 U.S. presidential race if polling shows its candidate would be a spoiler role by helping to elect either the Democratic or Republican nominee. Russia's government says its Black Sea grain deal with Ukraine has been terminated. The deal allowed Ukraine to export grain from its ports and navigate safe passage through the Black Sea to Turkey's Bosphorus Strait. The arrangement helped stabilize global food prices and brought relief to countries that rely on Ukrainian exports. The agreement, brokered by Turkey and the United Nations last year, was officially set to expire today. Still ahead, cutting waste when shopping.
Choosing to go green. I'm Christian Benavides with how July became the month to be plastic-free.
And next in Health Watch, we're going to look back at the impact of the emergency mental health number 988 in its first year of operation. Topping today's Health Watch, at the International Alzheimer's Congress, researchers have presented new guidelines for diagnosing the disease using a test or blood biomarker, similar to what's done to determine whether a person has diabetes or cardiovascular disease. Recent research shows new blood tests are effective in confirming whether cognitive symptoms are in fact the early stages of Alzheimer's. When children get concussions, it might not lead to long-term effects on their IQ. That's according to a new study in the journal Pediatrics. Children who suffered a head injury were tested in the days after visiting an emergency room, and researchers found no difference in IQ scores several weeks to months afterward when compared to kids without concussions. It's been 1 year now since the rollout of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline nationwide. That lifeline has answered calls for millions struggling with their mental health. But a new survey shows a lot of people are not even aware that it's available. Reporter Bradley Blackburn has more.
You have reached the 988 line.
Monica Matanga Anderson is standing by to listen.
This is Monica. What's going on for you today?
The counselor is answering calls for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
We're just assessing, helping them understand that we all need a little help sometimes.
New data shows the 988 Lifeline has answered nearly 5 million contacts in the past year, 2 million more than the previous year.
It's to be a space of support, an easy to remember 3-digit number where someone in a crisis state can call in, speak to a highly trained crisis counselor about whatever's going on for them in their lives, whether that be some suicidal ideation, it could just be stress from work.
Danielle Silverstein is the 988 director at the Long Island Crisis Center. She says the Lifeline helps bridge the gap in treating the country's mental health crisis.
There is such a shortage of mental health professionals. There's a shortage of resources, but there's also a lack of education about what resources are out there. Our goal is to help keep people safe for now, help connect them to those services.
A new survey finds only 17% of Americans are familiar with the Lifeline.
When you're feeling like this in the past, what have you done that helped you to feel better? We're supporting them and helping them recognize the coping skills that they already have, because sometimes we forget. So as simple as taking a breath sometimes. You can call back anytime. We are 24/7, okay?
The Crisis Center hopes more people will pick up the phone because their professionals will be there for them. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
This year, the 988 Lifeline is adding a new 24/7 text and chat support in Spanish. Summertime is usually associated with uplifting things like warm weather, a break from school, and a vacation, but it can also be a stressful time. Research shows up to 20% of Americans experience a condition known as seasonal affective disorder in the summer, or summer depression. Some of the contributors include changes in schedule, such as not having childcare when the kids are out of school, the stress around vacation or fear of missing out if you're unable to take a vacation, and the extreme heat.
Yeah. So first thing I would say is be realistic, right, about what your expectations are for yourself, for other people. Managing expectations is a big part of it.
Dr. Brahmer also strongly suggests planning ahead to make things easier and to seek professional help if needed. A nationwide study published in the JAMA Network finds that highly segregated neighborhoods are associated with a significantly lower life expectancy. Researchers say life expectancy is 4 years shorter in those neighborhoods and helps show how racial segregation can drive overall racial inequities. That is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, what a new study shows about the cost of a possible UPS strike.
We're watching for the potential for a few isolated thunderstorms as we go through the evening hours. Those details coming up. Well, it definitely turned out to be a warm one outside for us today. Temperatures kind of mid to upper 80s to near 90, but the humidity has been on the high side, and we've had a few scattered thunderstorms, most of them kind of working around us, but our western counties got a little bit of a cluster earlier during the early afternoon hours. Besides that, it's been pretty calm across the region. Nice shot, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, Indigo, just outside of Seneca, Missouri. All right, we still have a severe thunderstorm watch until 9 p.m. This is a sliver of Kansas, southwestern Missouri. But again, most of the action has either been east or just west of us. So we really haven't had to deal with much in the way of thunderstorms throughout the afternoon. But we may get one or two isolated guys that try to pop up as we go into the evening hours. You can see one little guy just to the north of Pittsburgh and then just north of Stockton Lake. But everybody else is pretty calm at this point in time. There are a few isolated guys just south of Kansas City, so we'll watch those and see if one or two storms flare up. But most of you are going to stay dry, but if we got one of these thunderstorms to flare up, the main threat here would be some large hail. All right, let's go through time. Again, most of you stay dry throughout the evening hours. Here's 8:30 p.m. We are going to watch late tonight. Another little cluster is going to drop, mainly in our northern counties, that could flare up some scattered thunderstorms once we get into southwestern Missouri. And this is going to be late tonight, so this is 5, 6 a.m. But we may get some scattered thunderstorms to start the day tomorrow, and then these would push off toward the east. And if we get those, that may play a little bit of havoc with our temperatures for highs tomorrow afternoon. All right, right now, most of us upper 80s to near 90. It looks pretty good. You can see a little line of clouds looking off toward the north and to the west. Outside sitting at 88, but our dew point's at 72, so that makes it feel like it's 95 degrees outside. And everybody, all of us have dew points mainly sitting into the lower 70s. So if we look at our dew point scale, that kind of puts us in that muggy to soupy range, and that's where we're going to be as we go through the next couple days. Through the evening, isolated thunderstorm possible, most of you dry, dropping back into the 70s. Big dome of high pressure out to our west, so these waves kind of jump over the high, and that's why they're moving from northwest to southeast. And we are going to get another little wave that passes by late tonight into tomorrow morning. Now, tomorrow, if we get rid of all the clouds in the morning quickly, we're going to heat up. Most of us right around 100 for an afternoon high, so quite a bit warmer than what we saw today. As we go into tomorrow night, very slight chance that we could get a random shower in here to start the day on Wednesday, but most of us hot and humid, high temperatures into the upper 90s once again by the time we get into a Wednesday afternoon. Heat indices for us tomorrow, it's not going to feel great. It's going to feel 105, 106, 107 across the region. So if you are going to be outside tomorrow, make sure you drink plenty of fluids. So that's why we're going to make it an alert day, because of those high heat indices. 99 on Wednesday. We do cool down a bit. Friday back to 86, and then we work our way right back up the scale through the week and into early next week.
A high of 86 isn't much relief, but compared to triple digits,
it's better.
It is. Thanks, Doug. Coming up, how some businesses are trying to cut down on plastic waste. Topping today's Consumer Watch, a strike by UPS workers could be one of the costliest in U.S. history. That's according to a study from Anderson Economic Group that found a 10-day work stoppage would have a $7 billion impact. That includes $4 billion in losses by consumers. That's you and me. The Teamsters are demanding pay increases, especially for part-time workers, and they've promised to strike if they cannot reach an agreement with UPS by the end of this month. David's bridal stores will stay open for business thanks to a no-cash bankruptcy sale. Many of them will anyway. A new owner will take over the wedding gown retailer avoiding the shutdown of most of its nearly 200 bridal shops. The company filed for bankruptcy in April, blaming high inflation and decreased demand. About a quarter of U.S. brides get their gowns at David's Bridal. Plastic pollution is harmful everywhere, of course, from local roads to the world's oceans. But changing our habits as consumers can make a difference. Reporter Christian Benavides shows us how to be part of the solution this plastic-free July.
At Verde Market in South Florida, it's BYOC, bring your own container.
The idea is that you can refill and reuse as many times as possible.
Pamela Barrera is co-owner of this plastic-free refillery, started with her business partner after realizing just how much plastic they were wasting.
We were saying to ourselves, what are we going to do with all this? Are we going to throw it away? Why don't we just reuse them, refill them?
According to the 2023 Plastic Waste Makers Index, there is more single-use plastic waste than ever before, with an additional 6 million metric tons generated in 2021 compared to 2019.
We all want to live in a clean environment.
Rebecca Prince Ruiz is the founder of Plastic Free July. It began in 2011 with just 40 people going plastic-free for a month. It's now a worldwide initiative.
Last year, 140 million people from 190 countries around the world took part, and together we avoided 2.6 billion kilos of waste.
The plastic problem can seem overwhelming, but there are small steps we can all take to reduce our use each day. That can include skipping the straw or bringing your own shopping bags, cups, or water bottles.
It's not a few people being perfect. It's lots of people making small changes.
Those small changes can transform habits, one at a time, this July and after. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Fort Lauderdale.
Now, if you want to make a change, advocates recommend you carry a reusable bag everywhere, incorporate reusable cutlery, and join a cleanup effort in your community. AAA says it will not renew home and auto insurance policies for some customers in Florida, saying natural disasters like hurricanes have just made the risk too costly. In the last year, multiple big insurers have backed away from doing business in that state. Floridians already pay about 3 times more for home insurance than the national average, and rates are expected to rise another 40% this year. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, how authorities in the Northeast are using drones to rescue flood victims. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on that new food truck park in Joplin. Plus, schools in Joplin are receiving a grant to help students experiencing homelessness. And the Joplin Outlaws look to finish out their regular season on a strong note as the Mink League enters its last week. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. A Florida neighborhood is experiencing a bunny boom. Between 60 and 100 lionhead rabbits are living in Wilton Manors, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale. One resident explains a neighbor left her rabbits in the street when she moved a couple of years ago, and since they weren't spayed or neutered, well, they're rabbits. The animals multiplied.
First thing I do is get up and cover up the holes and chase them out of the backyard too. But I'd like them, but I just wish they would live somewhere else.
With their thick fur, the rabbits aren't safe outside in that Florida heat. Residents are trying to raise thousands of dollars to rescue them and find them homes. And I would think speed would be important here because the longer they're out there, the more rabbits ultimately there are going to be.
Yeah, but we just did a story last week about pythons in Florida.
There you go.
So who knows?
That might take care of the rabbit population.
They
don't like the pythons either, though.
No. All right, a few isolated thunderstorms trying to pop up this evening. I think a little better chance late tonight into tomorrow morning, then heating up tomorrow, high temp 100.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. Let's make it a great evening.